How are you this afternoon, sir?
I am absolutely fabulous.
Well,
It's a beautiful day, ah, and I have waited to this moment to be with you since of our communication
yes,
because I remember how wonderful it was, my association with you in the Milwaukee Choristers.
yes,
It was a beautiful experience, and
yes.
I was experiencing with you one of my favorite poems, and of course, my leitmotif of the entire poem was a
Uh,
piece of music that I wrote when I was probably around 11 or 12.
yes, yes, yes.
So
That,
it was an all round, should I say, win win.
yeah. Well, it was just such an honor, and all of those warm feelings are reciprocated to have had the collaboration with you as our composer, to have had you as our guest, to come. Although obviously as the conductor, I'm biting my nails a bit to be sure that what we have done with your wonderful piece is something that you would have approved of. So you talk about that poem, and what I'd like to do first off, and it'll take me just a moment to kind of find it on my computer, but I would really love, if it's okay with you, to have the opportunity uh, to read that for our viewers because it is such an amazing piece of poetry. So is that okay with you?
I'm yours.
Okay,
Anything you want, we will share.
okay. So here is when music sounds, and here is how it goes. When music sounds, gone is the earth I know, and all her lovely things even lovelier grow. Her flowers in vision flame, her forest trees lift burdened branches, stilled with ecstasies. When music sounds, out of the water rise naiads whose beauty dims my waking eyes. Wrapped in strange dreams, burns each enchanted face. With solemn echoing, stirs there. And so in the wonderful world of technology, I have I've gone one page too soon. So I will go back a little bit with apologies to you
The
and to,
last verse, when music sounds, all that I was, I am.
yes,
Ere to this haunt of brooding dust I came, and from time's woods break into distant song, the swift winged hours as I hasten along. Oh, how
when
can a
music
man
sounds.
create such beauty with words? From the beginning, when music sounds, gone is the earth. I know I'm lifted into heaven. And then all lovely things that I have on earth, even lovely, become, if it has, should I say, the background of music. Anything that is said, music makes it said better. It's, I consider music a subliminal force. It's a magnet that magnifies everything about our lives, whether it's a ball game, whether it's any kind of event, a wedding, a funeral, a party, music is in the background, and it is a sixth sense. And this poem captures it, particularly the last verse. When music sounds, all that I was, I am.
Hmm.
This is completely me.
Yeah.
When I hear music,
Wow.
it's it's
Uh,
my
it's it's powerful. It's powerful. So that you had wanted to, you obviously you love this verse very deeply, and you had wanted the opportunity to set it to music, and
yes.
our commission gave you that opportunity.
Your commission gave me this opportunity, and I searched for a long time of the technique I wanted to use. And then one day I was just playing through a lot of my things, and I said how beautiful this poem is, more or less a travel log
Hmm.
of my life. And I said how nice to have in the background all the time this and then have the voices, should I say, echo what they've heard through the music. The music has sounded. Now, what do you think about it?
One of the things that moved me about that, your musical response to that and your musical setting of it, is how you reached all the way back, and you said earlier, to when you were a boy. And my understanding is that that motif that you talked about is perhaps your first utterance as a creator of music. And you're 12 years old. And then how you, at that particular point when you wrote for us, a few years past 12, I'm going to say, you reached back and you linked the old and the new, that expression that was on the dawn of your life as a musician and a composer, at a point where you have lived through all of your creation and all of your music making to reach this point. And I was moved by that, the old and the new.
Well, music is in itself, excuse me, in itself, it's supposed to reach, to me, some emotion. It's supposed to more or less be a leitmotif of our lives.
Mm.
We use it, I think, as some sort of tool to set our lives into words, to express ourselves with something that needs an additional beauty. To me, why I am a choral composer or chose it. I've written orchestral pieces, I've written piano, I love to write piano pieces. But when you work with text, you're working with two art forms: text, poems, and music. And the poem is the mother of song. The poet, the poem comes first. And then what a composer does, he frames it. He gives it the right light. He initiates the words with long notes. He accents certain words, and then he repeats his favorite lines over and over, much like a poet does. Each verse of this poem starts when music sounds, when music sounds, when music sounds, and then it takes him someplace else in heaven, on earth, or into himself. The swift winged hours as I hasten along this, the time that is short that I'm here on this earth as I hasten along.
I'm curious if you remember it, if you care even to talk about it, about the flow of your musical response to this really deeply beautiful poem as you wrote for us, whether it was something that came sort of all at once with you, whether you had thoughts and then those sort of kind of abated, and then you had more thoughts. Yeah, so give us a sneak peek behind the curtain of your creativity.
Well, I may embarrass myself.
Oh, no. Oh.
Nothing. I had peanut butter and jelly for lunch, and I still haven't gotten it down.
Okay. And so I recall the other day it was peanut brittle.
I'll take a sip here.
Okay, please do. I'm sipping a little myself.
No, from my heritage, from my training, what I think is beautiful is welled up in me.
Mm.
Nothing comes fast to me because I recompose. When a piece is completely composed, this is the time, to me, that talent kicks in. You have to have it there.
Mm-hmm.
How can you tell it's good until you hear it?
Mm.
It's like a shift. You've got to have all the ingredients in before you taste to tell it that's the taste that you want. A painter, I love to watch a painter. He will step back and look at the color. He will add another color. It's a process of creativity that I love. And if it's not what I want, I am tireless. I won't get it until it's like I want it. And if someone else likes it, that is beautiful. But if they don't like it, take a hike. It's mine. And that's what I want. Hollywood often presents it. You lose a lover, and as you're walking along, all of a sudden, a bird starts whistling this melody, and you go, ah, and run home and run. Oh, no, that's not the way it happens. Uh, well, if it does, it's never happened to me. Of course, like Mozart, as Salieri said, Mozart doesn't compose, he just takes dictation from God. The only thing that God gave me was a love of music, hard work, and a passion to set down exactly what was mine. He's never hummed a melody for me.
Well, you had a whole choir of people who had no interest in taking a hike at all because they loved what you created. They loved what you did.
Well, it was felt, and I always have a great surprise at the professionalism of some ensembles. I have written for a lot of ensembles that do not have as good as voices as others.
Mm.
But to me, they're still wonderful, and I appreciate them. The only bad performance of my music I've ever had is it not being performed. That's
That's a
horrible.
bad performance. I would agree. That's an awful performance.
As one person said, composing is easy. What's difficult is getting a performance.
Mm.
So, but when it does click, And when you hear that professionalism, it makes you more proud that you have reached the level that you set out to initiate and give to the poem. When I address some people, I tell them, I might have told your ensemble, when something is beautiful, I walk up and say, oh, how good I am. Oh, I'm a great composer. And I says, well, when I walk up to some ensembles and it's not too good, I say, well, I'm still a great composer, but it was just performed poorly. I'm kidding. I've never said that.
So I want to go back a little bit further in time to when I first approached you and I asked you your interest in possibly accepting this commission. You're somebody who writes a lot of music, and as your publications show, there is great demand for you to compose for various ones of us in the musical community, especially the choral community. What caused you to have an interest in writing this piece for us?
Well, not to be insulting, but time is my greatest uh, enemy.
Mhm.
When someone asks me to do something, I have to be available. I know how limited I am in my creativity and how long it takes me. And if I'm working on two things and have something in the 2 months that I have to start working on, and someone comes into the middle of it and says, can I have this in 2 months? I have to say, no, you can have it in 6 months. Because, and unfortunately, I've had children's choir music that I'm writing in 2 parts. And someone will come in and, oh, I've just been chosen to sing for the ACDA regional convention. They didn't tell me about it until August, and my convention's going to be in February.
Mm. Mm.
What do, I would probably, as Mozart would say, God help me. I, I, I need help. So time is an element, but I never choose a commission of whether I think the singers, the conductor is good or not. I don't choose one by prestige. I am honored anytime anyone chooses me for my creativity and like what I'm doing. That is that is the ultimate compliment. And to say, oh, well, I don't think you deserve to have my creativity, uh, I think then, if any time curses should be put upon a composer, if they become better than those who want to spend hours and hours doing their best to present a beautiful, their best, I should say, and present your creativity. I'm yours. I need time. Uh,
Thank you.
Right now, I need time.
Thank you for being ours to make this creation. You were talking about ACDA conventions, and for members of our chorus or patron community who may not know, that is the abbreviation for American Choral Directors Association, which was founded in 1959, I think, and is today the largest, most influential uh, organization of choral musicians and conductors and artists and educators. And your work has had a very prominent history being performed at ACDA conventions. And we ought to also point out so that people understand, you get to perform at an ACDA convention because you've auditioned and your work has been vetted by this panel blind audition, and you've been chosen, and that you can perform at state levels, you can perform at what's called divisional, now we call it regional levels, and you can perform at the national level. And choirs who are chosen to perform at ACDA conventions will choose what they consider to be the best literature in terms of quality and in terms of that literature allowing them to sing their best for probably the most discerning audience of choral listeners that you can ever perform for.
Absolutely,
And
yes.
they've chosen your music a lot.
Uh, they are the best audience, but most of the time I dislike the audience. They're the most, should I say, specialty. Their specialty is music, choral music. But they also are, I think, a little too critical. Uh, Sometimes I think choral directors and musicians particularly validate how important they are, how masterful they are of the craft, that they have to criticize what someone else is doing. Uh, at an ACDA convention, I think a lot of my colleagues, well, I've told them this, they go there to this rose garden, and the first thing they do is look for the thorns. I
I
go
like
there
that.
to see the flowers, and if I get stuck once or twice, who cares? You're listening to music. You're listening to souls, to individuals who are trying to make beauty. And if some do not make beauty as much as others, they're still making beauty.
Mm.
And I love to be a part of this aura of three artists in the room: the poet, the composer, and the ensemble or the conductor. I
Yes.
don't criticize a poem that I've set and said, oh, I want to change this word. I don't want. The, the poet made it. If they were alive, might say, I'd rather you not set my poem.
Yeah.
But then when a conductor conducts it and someone goes to say, well, it was all right, but this was a little flat. I don't think this was a. Did you hear the music?
Mhm.
Did you see those faces? Do you know how hard they worked? And you're sitting there. Critics are good, and good criticism is wonderful. But criticism should be aimed for us, should I say, like a teacher, to make something better, to make an ensemble better. It should be said to the ensemble or to the conductor. It should not be as gossip to other attendees of the conference. When you say something bad about a conductor or about an ensemble to a group of your colleagues, to me, I'm trying to validate how well I hear things, and I dislike it. And I
Now,
tell them I dislike it.
yeah.
I tell them, damn it, didn't you see that beautiful rose in that first song?
Well, so let me tell you a story then about roses that
Well,
I found
glad to hear it.
at an ACDA convention. And it was the first, it was maybe some decades ago, um, but it was the first performance of a work by you that I had had occasion to hear. Okay. And I want to say that it was maybe a choir from Michigan State, maybe uh, Charles Smith perhaps conducted it. It's been a while, but it was a performance of your setting of Heart, We Will Forget Him.
Mhm.
And I sat there, and it was only roses, roses, and roses bathed in tears because it's so moving. Okay, it is so moving, and all the way from the very first sound of the horn, that motive that sounds, and how this song really does such a great job of portraying this tension that exists for all of us, if we're honest, at some point in our lives, between the head and the heart. Okay, and I remember when that performance ended, there was silence in that hall. There was silence, and it was almost as if people had stopped breathing for just a moment, and then the applause, and I just, well, I mean, I was profoundly moved, profoundly enough by it that I remember it now, and I can recount that experience.
Well, this is what composers do. We want to give people those moments. We want to give them the, should I say, the ability to be moved by beauty. I tell everyone, you and I have the luckiest jobs in the world. Of course, there are thorns in our job, but to wake up every morning and realize the only thing you're going to do all day is to seek and to make beauty. And to me, this is what it's about. And again, when you have moments of that ensemble that Smith had, those women were just fantastic. It was in Louisville, and I'm just
Mm.
150 miles from Louisville, and I couldn't get down to hear them. And
Oh no!
it's one of the great
Wow.
regrets because
Yeah.
everyone told me that it was, should I say, the highlight of the convention.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
again, it was a French horn as a woman's sigh.
Mm.
Heart,
Yes. Yeah.
we will. Oh, it's again like your commission. I use a light motif of that upward half step as
Mm.
as a sigh,
Yeah.
and it's a lovely setting. I love my work on it, and it's simple, but yet it, I feel like that I have given it the best frame, the best lighting I could give it. If others want to light it and frame it, have at it, but this is mine.
Yes. And yours was a
I,
masterful
and
stroke.
I appreciate you sharing that moment with us. A lot of times people think, oh, well, oh, you've heard this so often. Uh, I don't bother to say that. It may happen to some people, but I never, never tire of hearing you have done something that has moved me, that has brought me to a better place, that I have felt, that I have shared with you passion and beauty.
Yes.
That's what we're about.
Well, and I thank you for that. And now that you've mentioned Louisville, yes, Louisville, this should have been 1989, yeah?
I don't know the
Uh,
date, but I had a former student singing in it,
yeah,
singing in the ensemble, and
yeah.
he, Charles Smith was one of my big buddies. I mean, we were, and they invited me, and I should have just canceled whatever I was doing. I don't know, and just have gone down and had been a part of this presentation. But I have a recording of it,
Mm,
and I do know it's the finest recording I
yes.
have of this because it's been a bestseller for years. I hope I will not sound vain.
Mm.
Yogi Berra says if it's a truth, it ain't bragging.
Yes, yes, yes. So let's take this direction, if you don't mind, since you're talking about that particular piece. And I think in a conversation you and I had, you were making the analogy between your works and children, your offspring, your creative offspring. Tell us about some of the other children that you have brought into the world that you are particularly fond of talking about.
We haven't got time. I have never written a thing that I'm not in love with.
Yes.
If I had, excuse me again, if I had, it would never be heard. I would throw it away. I would have discarded it. I love every one of them. This is a very personal thing that I'm writing a memoir right now,
Hmm.
and it's personal. But when I am in the audience of anything that I've written, uh, I have to sit on the aisle. You may have remembered me requesting that at your book.
Yeah. Yes.
Usually use an excuse, if I have to stand up or you want me to come down.
Hmm.
That's not the reason. When I listen to my music, some music that I did 20, 30, 40 years ago, it takes me back to the place that I was writing it, the things in my life, the things that I was worried about, the things that I was committed to. And some move me so much that I feel like I'm hyperventilating. And I want to be able to, it relaxes me to more I'm sorry, if I could realize I could get up and move. I dare not sit in the middle of the row.
Hmm.
So my music, it's like a child in that I have crafted it. It has come from my mind and body, and it's it's my heritage. It's what I'm giving to live while I'm here and when I'm gone. And I'm going to make sure it's clothed well and fed well and that it is able to communicate with someone else.
I think that our viewers would like to have you talk a little bit about how you came to music, or music came to you, or you both came to each other. You know, we already know that you were first composing at the age of 12.
No, no, I
Were you
was.
making music before then?
Oh, yes, yes.
Yes. So how did that start for you?
And my heritage was magic. I wish everyone had the experience of my heritage. My father was a philosopher. He had five, six, 700 poems committed to memory. He was a
Hmm.
full-blooded Irishman, first generation. My mother was Irish. She was a school teacher, pianist. I was an only child, and no TVs, no radio. They would have nothing to do with them, even we had them. And my first remembrance is of my father quoting poetry. My first remembrances of my mother is playing the piano, my father listening. I would get over and sit on the piano beside her and just pound and play anything.
Hmm.
But all those sounds, in fact, I tell everyone the first time with my experience with a piano was in my mother's lap. I started out playing in her lap, and finally I moved to the bench beside her. And so music, text, has been a part of my life. I've never been without it. And I thought this was what you were supposed to do. Uh, Learn music, learn the beauty of words. My father would quote poems, and tears would well up in this big, brawny Irishman. And I didn't know what he was saying. But at the same time, I just said, I don't know where you are, but someday I sure would like to go there. And finally, I realized that words were symbols of thoughts, and music was symbols for music, for thoughts, for emotions. So you're right. I didn't choose music. I was, it had me at hello. Uh, Someone once asked me, and it's my favorite, and it just came to me. They said, when did you first begin to love music? And I responded, that would be the same thing as asking me when I first began loving my mother. It had me in its arms. It was a place I could go. It made me happy. And I had to have it.
So where did you grow up? Where's your home?
I was born in a beautiful little southern town of Laurel, Mississippi.
Yeah, yeah.
My grandparents were traveling to Texas from Ireland, and they had to stop for my dad to be born, and they settled there.
Mm.
Uh, we have many artists from Laurel. You should know one who is my dearest friend, is
Benteen?
Leontine Price.
Yes, yes.
She just turned 90, 94.
Wow.
Uh,
Wow.
she has moved to Connecticut from her home that she lived in for 50 years in Greenwich Village. But in Laurel, we have a boulevard named after her.
Mm.
Uh, I have, oh, She is the greatest of the greats. But it's a small town, but it has an artistic fervor about it. Uh, in my graduating class of 60, I think, if I remember right, 24 gave musical recitals.
Wow. That's
So
extraordinary.
it's a culture, but what's changed a lot now. That was 60 years ago, 65 years ago. But still, my mother and my father, they gave to me. And again, my envy is that every child could not have what I had. I didn't have a choice. I'm not talented. I'm not special.
Some would argue. Some
I,
would argue.
I'm just an extension of my parents and those that have given so much to me. And all I'm doing is giving it back.
So this is a curiosity of mine, and I want to frame the question so that those people who are not necessarily musicians by training can at least relate to it. Uh, you came along at a time when there were many in the compositional community who were embracing avant-garde technique, who were going in experimental directions. As you came of age, and particularly as you were involved in academic pursuits, I think you did undergrad at LSU. Is that correct? Am I remembering
Uh,
that correct?
Bachelor's and master's, and then
Yes.
a doctorate at IU.
At IU, yes. So how were you able to keep a really, what seems to be a really pure and sort of an unadulterated vision of what your creativity should be, of what your voice was at a time when people were going maybe in less conventional directions in music composition?
Well, I really think that the text has a lot to do with it, and my decision. I was a singer.
Hmm.
Uh, was could have made a career of singing, and chose not to, and to go into full-time creating. But the text that I chose, my influences were the British Isles, like from my father knowing all the poems.
Hmm.
The way the British use their folk songs, the Welsh, the Irish, the Scottish, regardless of what identity you are, what nation you are, you probably know more Irish folk songs than any. The Irish people, the English people, they sing. They're great composers. Vaughan Williams, Holtz, they were like hymns. Mendelssohn, although he was German, he considered himself English. He had to write Hark the Herald Angels. It's, singing is a part of their religion. It's a part of their life. And so the thing that I get off on with contemporary music, I love it more instrumentally than I do vocally. Because sometimes in very avant-garde, as you say, I feel like that the text gets in the way of the music for some contemporary composers. They stack chords on one another. They invent new ways to make sounds. That's fine. Uh, I don't mind you taking a portrait of the Mona Lisa and hanging it, but I don't want you to take the Mona Lisa and put her in a Velcro frame with a polka dot dress, with the top part of her body showing. Leave her alone. write your own text or get some contemporary text. But don't set red, red rose. That sounds, you can't visualize a rose. I would tell the composer, when I hear your music, I visualize a dandelion. It's not that I disagree with it. I enjoy it. I love contemporary. I love hearing something I've never heard before. New is good. But a composer like myself could not get a job as, should I say, head of a composition department today in any university. Those places are reserved for people who write music that has never been heard before. It has to be, and there's a place for both of us. And I think contemporary music, when you take a piano and nail the strings, when you start dealing with quarter tones and half tones, I mean, who can tell? Really avant-garde music. I tell the story, you don't have to use this. Our interview is running a little long, but LSU has a wonderful contemporary music, still does, department. They have a festival every year. And this composer, who I will not name, wrote something for 12 voices. And we were going to perform it. 12 of us were chosen. 4 of us had perfect pitch. And this piece was just off the wall. We worked our little dumplings out of it to try to impress the composer. And he came in there and heard it for the first time. He didn't only complain about us, he criticized our director. How could you not prepare these kids to perform my music any better? There's a part of me you do not know. And I do get mad, and I do get revenge. It's not only for the Lord. It's me and 3 or 4 of my friends. I said in the performance, I'm going to sing any pitch I want at any time. I'm going to sabotage this damn work. And I don't know about my 3 colleagues, but I did. And at the end of the performance, he came running back with his hands flying in the air, and I says, oh my God, I'm dead. And then he says, oh, please, please tell me this was recorded. This is the most wonderful performance I've heard of my work.
Oh my gosh.
I've told my dear friend Greg Fuller at the University of Southern Miss, oh, you should hear his ensemble. He loves to perform this over-the-top contemporary music. Of course, he performs mine too. But I have heard some things he's practiced on, and I said, Greg, let me join the ensemble, and I am going to sing wrong pitches whenever I want to. And when I sing a wrong pitch, I want you to stop and tell me that I'm singing a wrong pitch. He has never stopped.
Wow.
So to me, if the creator can't recognize it, I don't know. It's a curiosity. But
it is.
My best friends are contemporary composers. At my school in Butler, my most dear friend, Michael Shelley. Oh, his music is, but I've never missed a performance, and he's never missed a performance of mine. As the French say, vive la différence.
Yes, yes.
But I am romantic. I was born romantic. I will die romantic. And I am what I am. And when music sounds, all that I was, I am.
Maestro, thank you so much for taking this time to chat. Thank you for being romantic on behalf of Milwaukee Choristers. We like you that way. And because you made music sound in that wonderful and imitable and beautiful way that you did, we were enriched so much by your contribution, by your creativity.
My music doesn't exist until I have a maestro and a chorus that sings it. To quote the old song, "You are the wind beneath my wings. Without you, I'm only ink on a paper. You make me." Thank you.
You're so welcome.